Good evening, Mukta. I'm extremely excited to have you as my guest. I've known Mukta for so many years, though we haven't met, but I have a huge amount of respect for HR head professional like Mukta, because something which I've always been observing through the LinkedIn, and that's the advantage of being in touch with LinkedIn, though we have not spoken to each other for long. But I think the kind of objectivity she gets to the table, I'm very, very proud to be associated with Mukta. And for all you guys, I'm just going to have a very brief chat with Mukta on certain issues that you guys, in terms of your job seeking abilities, seek. So you'll get a perspective from right from the horse's mouth. So she is a HR professional with 24 years experience in multiple industries and locations in the APAC region, and starting her career with SR Group in Mumbai, in India. After completing Masters in Management, she worked with Tata TD Waterhouse Securities, Tata TWD Asset Management before joining O&M. She joined Société Générale in Mumbai as head of HR for India and has been with them for the last 16 years. And just yesterday, I've read a beautiful article, and it really touched me to see what kind of an organization culture they have. And it's kept her bound to the company for the last 16 years, which is fabulous. And I'm sure, all of you will get a lot of insights as to what the company offers, what are the kind of culture that really draws people and lets them be happy there. She's worked in Hong Kong as the regional head for talent development and inclusion since 2010, and as head of HR for SEA for Société Générale in Singapore for 4 years, before being appointed as a CHRO for Société Générale APAC, now based in Hong Kong. She's a certified coach accredited by International Coaching Federation. What else could you ask for? The most critical areas she's really kind of been an expert in. And last but not the least, believe me, I've had this passion to write a book, but I've not been able to complete it. And she's already published. She's a published author of 4 books. She's based in Hong Kong and a highly respected professional. I welcome you, Mukta, for this brief session that we're going to have more as a chat to help the job-seeking community. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarabjeet. That was a very nice introduction, and to all of you. I also remember Sarabjeet when I was in O&M, and he at that time was actually helping us in finding talents for O&M. And yes, we have remained connected through LinkedIn for now a very long time. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Mukta. Thank you so much. So I'll give you a bit of a background, Mukta. What happens? I'm into job search coaching. I have realized that, there are people who are talented, but somewhere in terms of if you're not able to communicate or identify your own brand strengths, and you go by a lot of perceptions that, okay, fine, maybe somebody has changed too many jobs, or somebody's taken a career break, or somebody's wanting to shift industry, but he feels that, the other industry professionals would not kind of accept me. These are the kind of thoughts they come, and they just continue to take a back step. And that is where I believe that, because of the back step they take, they just compromise on whatever job they get. And this is happening constantly, because when I was in recruitment for 16 years, I realized that there was good talent. So whenever we would present candidates to our clients and employers, I would find that why would this guy not be selected? But when I would get a feedback and the way he would present himself, and he was not really able to identify his transferable skills and so many things, he was not able to communicate that. So the objective is, when I coach people, I get somebody like you who gives them a very objective feedback. It's not something I'm saying, but whatever is your experience, if I'm asking you certain questions, you please share your experience. Objective is to guide them specifically from your and your company's point of view. What would you look for in talent? What are the 3 things that you would look for in any candidate in terms of work culture fitment? Because this is a question which I get from a lot of candidates. They said, I don't know about how do I identify whether I'm the right fit for the work culture or no. So how would you really assess the work culture fitment as an HR head?
It depends on the company. So I work in Societe Generale, which is an investment bank, and we are, for example, highly matrixed, So that means we need to work together with a number of people. And I guess for most of the companies, that becomes quite important. Are you really able to work with a number of people without, rubbing them the wrong way? Are you collaborative? And frankly, for me, as a HR professional, I feel that this is really important. The individualism is important, and the success which you have as an individual is important. But nowadays, most of the organizations, you cannot work in isolation. You really have to work with important. How I assess, explain, about whether they have been involved in projects which are either individual or whether they are collaborative, the kind of language that the candidates use. Are they saying I most of the time, or are they using we? Or
Okay.
in some cases, I would also say that when you say we, what does it mean? And when you say I, is it you did it alone or you did it with a number of people? These are some subtle things which can help you understand, whether, for example, a person will be collaborative or not. We do have a question, based on our competency model, and team spirit is there. So we do ask, mostly based on example. We would also do checks, okay, and also, for example, look at the social media profile. How do people really describe themselves? It's really important. Everything which is in public domain, for me, is a representative of what a candidate is. So I think the candidates have to be very careful about what they write in public domain. How do they present themselves? Are they coming across as somebody who is highly individualistic? And it's good for individualistic job, but when you're going for jobs which require collaboration, you have to present yourself as somebody who's like that. The second, for me, the culture fit that I find quite important, and I think it's for all organization, is whether the person is genuine, frank or not. Because for me, somebody who is able to say how things are instead of sugarcoating them, that for me is a very good candidate, because then I will be sure that the person will not put things under the carpet when things are going wrong, maybe raise alarm at the right time, will be somebody whom I can trust. So for me, genuineness is quite important. How do I assess it? I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes you come to know, when people are talking, and then when they're giving example, you come to know when people are making up stories. There are a number of loopholes, and as HR professionals, we get used to it. We know when people are telling you the real thing, or when they are making up stories. So for me, genuineness is very important. The third thing that I look for, apart from, of course, all the domain knowledge and everything which business also assesses, is basically whether they have a positive attitude and resiliency or not. This is, for me, very important, because the world is changing. The world has been changing for many years. In investment banking, it's changes up and down, everything. Are people really able to take it when things go downwards? I think that's the important point, because when things are going, everything is rosy, everybody is happy, and you behave in a different way. The real how you handle things comes up only when it's adversity. And I think the examples, we will ask for examples on that how have you handled situation? Were there any situation like this in your working life or in your personal life? And how did you behave? And again, when people are making up stories, you can come to know. And when people are genuinely telling you how they handled the situation, you can figure that out. So for me, I would actually focus on these things apart from the expertise of the person.
There is so much of characteristic traits when you are really evaluating the work culture fitment, right, Mukta? It's more of a characteristic trait. So when you're talking of resilience and when you're talking of, whether the person is really genuine or no, these are all characteristic traits which are so important. You might be the best guy as far as your domain is concerned, but if you don't have these, then that is where the work culture fitment and the soft skills play a very important role. Right, Mukta?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Very important. Just one thing is there, I think it depends on also, for example, if I want a department where, I need somebody who's disruptive, okay, coming up with new ideas and all, then, I may think that, okay, individualism is better because in that role it is required. But these three things that I told you, for me, they will still remain the same, So you don't want homogeneous people in your organization, because we also want diversity of thoughts and everything else. But for me, this is a bedrock, And then you can see that in terms of how they work, etc., it could differ. But for me, this is bedrock kind of, traits, as you said. Yeah.
As a senior and a very objective HR professional, how would you view a candidate who's lost his job and currently doesn't hold one? Means, would you evaluate him and give equal weightage to a person who's currently holding a job versus that? Would you do that?
Yes, because nowadays, frankly, the stigma of not holding a job or being made redundant, it was there in the past. I remember when I started my career in 1997, it was there around that time. But now I don't think that matters at all, because there are plenty of reasons for people to be made redundant, and most of the time it's not the issue with the employee. It is the condition which is there for the company or for the economy, etc. So normally we look at CVs where people have a break, in their career, and if it is explainable, the reasons are there which are proper, and if the person is frank about it, I think for us, we have looked at a number of CVs. We have also hired people who have had break in their career, and I really don't think there's any issue with that at
All right.
all, actually. Yeah, it
That's
should
very
be explainable. It should not be something which is like if there's a reason, I mean, if somebody has been made redundant, I think better is to be frank about it, because the market is so small, you come to know. And I
absolutely.
think no employer would like to have an explanation which is not correct.
Absolutely.
Frankness is always, appreciated.
Well, over the last 2 years, we've seen that the skill requirement has undergone a change, like, resilience and being able to perform
Yes.
in the unpredictable. So, what are the kind of skills that you found that have come in demand for you as an organization? And in your experience, you really look for those skills now, which you were not looking, say, 2, 3 years back. What are those skills?
Resiliency definitely has come, to the fore. Um, Really, managerial skills, if it's a manager position, I think it has become much more important on how people manage their teams if they are not able to meet them. Remote, management, virtual management, for example. For
Yeah.
me, that has become quite important because it has become a necessity, with people working from home or all over the place. Even if we go back to the so-called normal, we'll still have people working from home for a few days here and there. I think for me, somebody who is a true manager, who is a coach, is very important kind of skill that I would look for, and it has come up. You will see that a number of companies are also giving more importance to that, including ourselves. The other thing, what I feel personally, and when I interview people, I do look at it, is the creativity, because things are vague. We don't know what's going to happen. We have to take sometimes decisions, without having the full facts or visibility about what's going to happen in future. So for me, somebody who is creative enough to come up with solutions which are, useful, which can be implemented, we can move forward, we can still have the company, doing business in those kind of situation. And for me, creativity is really very high. Somebody, I mean, to put it in a different wording, it's like the street smartness, I think, is very important.
Okay.
That
Mm.
things will not be written in book, and if you are going by the book all the time,
Mm.
during these times, it will be so difficult to do anything because you will not have anything in writing. So you have to find solutions. So street smartness for me will be quite important at this point of time.
Interesting, very interesting. And creativity is something which you are definitely looking for, huh? And street
Yeah.
smartness, because things are so unpredictable, things are so vague, as you rightly said. So somebody has to be able to take a call that I need to decide and come out of this. And whatever learning, I guess, the person has, whether it is success, failure, whatever, but you need to learn from that and immediately be able to create something out of that. This is something which I think over the last 2 years, many companies have said that they are looking for creative people from the point of view of street smartness.
Yes. And maybe one more thing, which is my personal favorite, is humility, in the person, because when things are good, then everybody, is like, okay, I'm the best person in this world. But when things go down and, we face a setback, then how do people take it? So for me, what we also look for is humility and humbleness. We do not want to have people who are arrogant and think they are the best in everything. We do want people who are the best, but who also are, down to earth and humble. I think it's important for us. Yeah.
Right, very interesting, because that is something which, uh, in my experience, many times when some of these professionals, they don't get a job in spite of everything going on well. Somewhere when I actually ask them to recite what happened during the interview, somewhere I think it has got reflected, maybe just unconsciously, that they have certain kind of uh, attitude that they know it all. So there is that bit of arrogance that comes up, and that is the reason for they being rejected. Otherwise, they are well qualified, they have all the skills, expertise, everything. But on this aspect, they do get rejected. So it's a very important aspect what you mentioned, that humility. And that I think the pandemic has really taught so many things to all of us. It's no rocket science, believe you me. I think all of us have undergone, we have lost people, how we took it, what we did, how we helped our neighbors and relatives and everybody. I think that quality organizations are able to now identify, and that's in demand. So thank you for that. While leadership hiring, so what are those three key things that you look for leadership hiring, senior positions where people are supposed to lead?
One is really, I think the vision part of it. Are they really able to have that long-term vision, not just the short-term for short-term profits, but real things from all perspectives, which I think is very important for us. So that's one. The second is whether they are true leaders, who are coaches, who are kind, and who are humane. I think that is very important, because the role is really to have people, they have to take along people with them to get things done. So I think that is really important. And the third one is that charismatic, the conviction, when they are able to really influence and persuade people, to their point of view. I think that for me is quite important in a leader. If those things are there, then frankly we can surmount any problems that are there. So I do think that these do make a difference, when a leader has these qualities.
Very, very important what you mentioned. In your recent past, is there any candidate who really stood out, with the approach that he used, and you really liked the approach, and you felt that, wow, I think this candidate really stood out because of this reason? Any candidate comes to your mind in the recent past who you have hired? Somebody who's really out of the box thinking and really impressed you?
Yes, I think quite a few people. But if I remember correctly, I think there was this young person that I was hiring for my team, who basically, when I told the person that, okay, can you tell me how do you envision the department, the HR department, and what we should be doing, etc. He was so it was a he. He basically had a full blueprint of. He had done a study on what the department is like through his contacts. I mean, it's not public information about departments, etc., but through people he had looked at. He had checked with people who had worked with us, or with some of his friends. I don't know how he did that, but basically he said, okay, so right now you have this kind of a structure. If I was the head of HR, this is what I will do. And he was so convincing, so at one point of time, and he was detailed. Okay, so he did tell me that there are certain things which I think are the pain points for you, and these are the things, if I was the one, I would do it in 2 months time, 3 months time, 4 months time, that kind of thing. Very, 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 very articulate and quite practical, and he said, I understand that we wouldn't have this much budget, we wouldn't have that many headcount, etc., but this is how I'll do. I was quite impressed, because he had done his research, and I think this is really important. As a candidate, you have to research the organization you're going for interview. You have to understand and check, like he did, from people who had worked here, from Glassdoor, from our LinkedIn site, the post that people from SocGen were posting, etc. For me, I was impressed that he had put in that effort, and a lot of people don't put in that effort, So, and he had a clear vision of what he could do with the constraints. And that's what I like. The creativity which came out was like that, okay, I understand you will have constraint, but this is the solution which can be done. And this is done by some other companies. So for me, the benchmarking, the looking at other things, everything which he did in a short period of time really impressed me very much.
See, this is so important. I always tell people that the researching part and understanding what the business pain is in detail before you actually start going for an interview, You need to do it as if you are already an employee of that company. And then,
Yes.
like you are drawing up a blueprint and telling you with the constraints, I can do this. I think that is the key, which most candidates don't do. That is where I think there is a huge gap between whether they get selected or not. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Thanks for that. And yeah, actually, this next question was related to this, that if a candidate really does research on the company and approaches you directly, and he says that, okay, fine, I've really done research on Société Générale as a bank, and this is what I believe could be the possibilities of, I just want to have a chat with you. Suppose somebody had to send you just a mail or a LinkedIn message, and you really don't have a vacancy right now, but at the same time, you have a potential vacancy. But because the candidate has written to you, has taken the initiative of doing a lot of research and mentioned to you that, would you like to just have to have a 5-7 minute chat with you? Would you give him that opportunity?
I would, because it has to be eye-catching. So
Sure.
if somebody is telling me something which is important to me, yeah, I would definitely, because the person has taken efforts. Yeah.
And Mukta, how important are soft skills versus the domain skills? While we have covered many of them right now, but how
Yeah.
important are they as versus the domain and the hard skills?
Very, very, very important. As you can imagine, you can't survive in an organization without soft skills. So whatever we discussed earlier, for me, they are extremely important, and it has to be a mix of the hard and the soft skills, to be successful in any organization. So it has to be, we call it all rounder, and I know that not everybody can be all rounder. It's frankly, it's like a unicorn, to be an all rounder, but at least the skills that are required for that particular position, people should hone that, yeah, if they want to be successful. Yeah.
And last question, Mukta, what would be your advice for people who are looking for jobs? What would be your maybe 3 or 4 key things that you would like to advise? That at least these 3 things you guys should keep it in mind.
The first thing is they should know, when they apply for a position, they should know actually what they want to do, because I do feel that sometimes, we are confused. Like, for example, when I got the position in Hong Kong for talent development, I was also thinking, whether my career path should be a HR generalist, or should I become a specialist within HR? Is it going to impact my career or not? So I think for me, each job seeker has to be clear about what is it that they want, from a particular position. Maybe not that specific, but at least they should know that I have these skills on the table. These are my positives. This is what I bring to the table. So that SWOT analysis for me is very important. Yeah, at least the strengths and the improvement areas, and basically apply for a position where you can leverage on your strengths. So basically, you should play to your strength, like we say, the core competence. So we should all know our core competence, and frankly try to leverage on that. Yeah, when you are outside and I'm looking for somebody, if you ask certain questions and you ask, okay, do you know about this skill, do you know about this language, in IT, etc. If you do not know, just say that, okay, but show the positive attitude that you can learn. And I think that is one other part. If I see somebody who has this continuous learning spirit, I would be more confident that they can pick up the things even if they don't know. And really, I mean, people cannot know everything. We all need to learn things as we go along. So for me, if the candidate can really show that they are really continuously learning, they are willing to unlearn and then learn, I think that for me is a plus point for any candidate. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mukta. It has been so nice and interesting. And during our discussion, I've realized that there are a lot of soft skills and characteristic traits that you really give a lot of emphasis to, because one understands that domain is something which you will be able to learn and pick up and you will gain with experience. But I think, things like when you said whether the person uses in the language I or we, and what does it imply, what does it mean, you go behind that as an HR professional. Whether people really are truthful, whether people are having the resilience, whether people are creative, they have become in demand, which I'm experiencing with most of the companies. So it is important for professionals to continue to focus on that and not really just kind of say that, okay, I don't have that domain skill, or if I've had a break in the career, or if I want to shift an industry, I cannot do it. So that mindset is something which I believe can definitely be broken, and they can
Yeah.
work towards that. And it's so nice that you are open-minded in terms of accepting talent from even other industries, provided they meet certain other criteria for certain roles. Those are good things. And I would really like to thank you from the bottom of my heart to spare this time, Mukta. And I'm sure your inputs that you provided will help all job seekers, whoever will listen to this and see it.
Thanks, Sarabjeet, for giving the opportunity, and best of luck to all the job seekers. It's a tough world, but there are ways, to get it done.
Thank you so much.